You are out of order.
He's answering
Be quiet.
my question.
You are out of order.
I would like to reclaim
you cannot,
my time.
No. He's answering the question because you personally attacked him. I've said he can answer the question. I give that courtesy.
How did I personally attack him, Mr. Chairman?
You attacked his credibility. We're not going to get into we're not getting into this right now. What we're going to get.
He's a witness. His credibility matters, sir.
You are out of order. You are out of order. You're done. You can't say anything else right now. You have lost your credibility with me. I gave that courtesy to everyone on this bench.
Mr. Chairman.
You ask a question. If they wanted to continue to answer beyond the time limit, I said, time's expired. You may answer the question.
When my time was up at 00 for him to answer the question, he went and answered the question. You then gavelled and said my time was up.
That's not a parliamentary inquiry.
You gavelled and
that's
said
not
my
a
time
parliamentary
is up. I would
inquiry.
like to know when
that's not a parliamentary
my time
inquiry.
is up and when he gets to continue answering.
That is not a parliamentary inquiry. Your parliamentarian's about to tell you. That's not a parliamentary inquiry.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First, keeping it real with another breakdown of what's happening in Washington. Before we dive in, if you believe in defending our constitutional values and standing up for America, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. We're growing this community of truth tellers every day, and your support helps us combat the mainstream narrative. Also, hit that notification bell so you never miss when we drop new content exposing what the left doesn't want you to see. Today, we're looking at a truly unbelievable exchange from Capitol Hill that perfectly demonstrates how the Democrats operate. We're going to watch Congressman Dan Goldman, one of the Democrats' attack dogs, attempt to ambush constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley during a congressional hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Turley, it's good to see you again. You are a frequent witness for a variety of different hearings for the Republicans. And in fact, you testified in the last Congress related to an impeachment investigation. And as I recall, you testified that you believed that the Republican investigation related to Hunter Biden's private foreign investments did merit an impeachment investigation against President Biden, I guess based on alleged meetings that the president had with Hunter's business partners, even though there was never any evidence presented that they discussed Hunter's business ventures, or that the president ever financially benefited from those ventures. Is that generally an accurate assessment? You didn't call for impeachment, you just suggested there should be an investigation, right?
The purpose of that hearing was to determine whether there could be an impeachment inquiry and whether if
I'm just asking what you testified, Mr.
I'm trying to say that.
Well, no, did you say directly that there was a legitimate basis to move forward with an impeachment investigation?
Yeah, what I said is that if those allegations were proven, they could amount to impeachable offenses.
All right. Well, let's focus for a second on some conduct that's been going on over the last few months. Related to World Liberty Financial. Are you familiar with that company?
No.
You're not familiar, okay. Are you familiar at all with Donald Trump's interest in cryptocurrency?
No.
So you're not familiar with the fact that Donald Trump issued a meme coin 2 or 3 days before his inauguration?
I saw something of that in the press, but I'm not that familiar with it.
Okay. Well, let's hypothetically, it's not hypothetical, it's true, Donald Trump has a financial interest in a meme coin named after himself. And he recently offered a VIP White House tour and special reception to the meme coin's 25 biggest holders. After that announcement, the coin surged more than 50%. Does that seem like something that warrants investigation to you, Mr. Turley?
Well, there's no question that you can investigate that to see if there was any criminal conduct. I want to distinguish between that and the influence peddling scandal that the hearing was about in the Biden administration.
I'm not talking about that hearing. And I know you like to filibuster, Mr. Turley. No, I'm happy to talk about that hearing. It was the biggest joke of an investigation. It was embarrassing that you call yourself a credible criminal professor that you would actually think that there was any evidence that warranted an investigation. But I'm focusing right now because it would seem to me, if you have any credibility, you would agree that auctioning off a White House tour for the highest investors in your own company would warrant either impeachment or criminal investigation. But let me move on because it gets worse. The president is a significant financial beneficiary of a company called World Liberty Financial, which issues a stablecoin. Are you familiar with stablecoins?
I'm not.
Okay, a stablecoin is essentially a digital version of a dollar that can be used in transactions. Recently, the World Liberty, this organization which Donald Trump is a beneficiary of, entered into a deal with a UAE-backed company that would complete a $2 billion transaction with a company that has previously admitted to engaging in money laundering. And Donald Trump's company will now generate tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue from that transaction with a foreign government. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Foreign Emoluments Clause, Mr. Turley. Would you say that based on that information, since apparently you only follow Hunter Biden's finances and not President Trump's, would you say that based on me providing you with that information, that would warrant an impeachment investigation?
Congressman, when you say that we have to preserve our credibility, I think you would agree.
Can you answer the question, sir?
He's trying to answer the question. Your time has expired. I will allow the gentleman to answer the question.
Thanks. In the interest of credibility cited by the member, I'm not going to rely on the facts that you just gave me for the first time to render a judgment on it. I'm not opposed to investigations of alleged corruption. That was the point of the previous hearing. But the way to establish credibility is not, as you did, sir, just engage in personality attacks and personal innuendos. I'm happy to speak with you and to work with you about anything dealing with corruption in this building. I've been writing about that for 3 decades. I've been called as a witness for both the Democrats and Republicans dealing with that.
Well,
but the way to presume...
I've only seen you as a witness.
Your time has expired, sir. Your time has expired.
I'm happy to yield back.
Did you finish your question?
Only that the way that we can actually regain...
I thought my time has expired.
Your time has expired. I said your time expired. He gets an opportunity to finish answering the question.
I'd like to reclaim my time.
No, you have no additional time. You are out of order.
He's answering
Be quiet.
my question.
You are out of order.
I would like to reclaim
you cannot,
my time.
No. He's answering the question because you personally attacked him. I've said he can answer the question. I give that courtesy.
How did I personally attack him, Mr. Chairman?
You attacked his credibility. We're not going to get into we're not getting into this right now. What we're going to
He's
get
a witness. His credibility matters, sir.
You are out of order. You are out of order. You're done. You can't say anything else right now. You may finish answering your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that the one lesson from this exchange is that it's possible that we can restore credibility in this institution if we can just get beyond the personal attacks.
There were no personal attacks, Mr. Turley. You are a witness.
Done.
Your credibility matters.
You, sir, you have lost your credibility with me. I gave that courtesy to everyone on this bench.
Mr. Chairman.
You ask a question. If they wanted to continue to answer beyond the time limit, I said, time's expired, you may answer the question. That's my routine. That's what I did today. You challenged him, asked him a question. You wanted an answer. Your time has expired. He is answering the question.
Mr. Chairman,
you don't like his answer. Because you don't like his answer, you want to shut him up. What's your inquiry?
My inquiry is when you offered when my time was up at 00 for him to answer the question, he went and answered the question. You then gavelled and said my time was up.
That's not a parliamentary inquiry.
You gavelled and
that's
said
not a parliamentary inquiry.
I would like to know when
that's not a parliamentary inquiry.
My time is up and when he gets to continue answering the question.
That is not a parliamentary inquiry. Your parliamentarian's about to tell you. That's not a parliamentary inquiry.
He actually disagrees. He thinks it is a parliamentary
That's not a parliamentary inquiry.
Why? I'm asking for the process question, the process question as to when my time is up, which you allowed him to answer the question, you then gavelled and said my time is expired,
Yeah.
and then you then offered him to answer the question again, which he already had
He
done.
was, no, sir, if we were to watch.
You did it based on accusations that I was personally attacking him, which I was not.
Excuse me. Not only are you out of order, you're being incredibly rude. Here's the deal. I gave everybody the same courtesy. You didn't like where he was going. You began interrupting again, but your time was expired. He was trying to answer the question. You didn't like the answer.
That is false. I'm happy to have this answer.
No, that's what happened.
I didn't like the accusation that I was personally attacking him. His credibility.
I didn't say that till the third round when you interrupted.
His
and you continue to interrupt. You continue to be out of order.
And then I asked you,
you are out of order.
I asked you, what am I personally attacking? And you said his credibility, and he is a witness whose credibility matters.
You're out of order. You are so far out of order.
Well, you are not conducting this in a fair and equitable way.
Sure I am.
Because
everybody got the same courtesy. You asked a question, they're going to finish answering. Everybody got that same courtesy. You interrupted him while he was giving the answer. That's why you got gavelled.
And then
you got interrupted.
And then you said
you interrupted.
Time,
that's why
and then you said my time is up, which is when you would go to the next person.
I gave the same courtesy to every member on your side of the aisle as I gave over here. When your time was expired, 5 minutes expired. If they were in the middle of answering the question, I let it go. Now, we can talk about that round and round all you want. That's what I did. That's what I do.
Well, I look forward to you continuing to do that.
Yeah, well, good. And I look forward to you being in order next time. So, Mr. Turley, you may continue to answer the question that he so much doesn't want to hear.
I've never been so certain in saying I'm happy to move on.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, folks, what you're witnessing is the Democrat playbook in real time. Notice how Goldman immediately tries to frame Professor Turley as some kind of Republican puppet by saying he's a frequent witness for Republicans. This is their standard tactic, discredit the person instead of addressing the substance. Professor Turley is one of America's most respected constitutional scholars who has testified for both parties over decades of public service. But here's the kicker. Goldman is trying to equate the Biden family's extensive, documented foreign influence peddling operations spanning multiple countries and millions of dollars with some vague allegations about a cryptocurrency. It's the classic Democrat strategy: deflect, distract, and create false equivalencies. Goldman admits he doesn't even know if Turley is familiar with these cryptocurrency allegations, yet he's demanding instant judgment on complex financial matters that Turley is hearing about for the first time. This isn't about finding truth, it's about creating a gotcha moment for social media clips. The Hunter Biden investigation wasn't about private foreign investments, as Goldman deceptively claims. It was about documented evidence of influence peddling that includes text messages, emails, witness testimony, bank records, and even voice recordings mentioning the big guy getting a cut. It's about foreign governments and entities paying for access to the Biden family. Now, let's talk about what Goldman is doing here. He's throwing out rapid-fire allegations about President Trump and cryptocurrency without providing any documentation or evidence. Notice how he frames everything in the most sinister light possible. The reality is that President Trump, as a private citizen and businessman, has every right to engage in business ventures. There's a world of difference between that and using the sitting vice presidency as leverage for foreign payments. But Goldman doesn't want that distinction to be made because it destroys his narrative. Goldman doesn't actually want answers. He wants to make speeches and then cut off responses that don't fit his narrative. This is exactly why Americans are losing faith in these congressional hearings. They're not about oversight or accountability. They're about creating partisan campaign ads. Professor Turley showed tremendous restraint here. He simply stated that he couldn't render judgment on allegations he was hearing for the first time without reviewing evidence, which is exactly what any credible legal scholar would say. That's intellectual honesty, something that seems in short supply on the Democrat side of the aisle. Thank goodness the chairman stepped in to restore some semblance of order. But notice how Goldman continues to interrupt and talk over everyone. This is the typical elitist attitude we see from these coastal Democrats. They believe they're above the rules and procedures that govern everyone else. Let's break down what's really happening here, patriots. The Democrats are terrified that the American people are waking up to their game. The Biden family corruption scandal isn't going away, despite the mainstream media's best efforts to bury it. The evidence continues to mount, showing a clear pattern of selling access and influence around the globe. So what's their strategy? Create confusion by throwing out counter-allegations, no matter how thin. Make wild accusations about President Trump's business dealings without context or evidence. And above all, never allow a full discussion of the actual facts. Professor Turley wasn't given a fair chance to respond because Goldman knows that a measured, factual analysis would expose the weakness of his arguments. This is why they rely on theatrical performances rather than substantive debate. Let's also talk about the stark contrast in how these matters are treated. When it comes to the Bidens, we have years of documented evidence, financial records, whistleblower testimony, and even admissions on camera. Yet the media and Democrats demand endless proof and dismiss it all as Russian disinformation. But when it comes to President Trump, they'll run with any anonymous allegation, no matter how flimsy. They'll breathlessly report speculation as fact, and they'll demand immediate condemnation without allowing for any examination of evidence. This hearing perfectly demonstrates why we need to take back Congress. These hearings should be about finding truth and serving the American people, not creating viral clips for fundraising emails. Professor Turley demonstrated what integrity looks like in that hearing room. He refused to be bullied into making snap judgments without reviewing evidence. He maintained his composure in the face of badgering and interruptions. And he stood firm on principle rather than partisan politics. That's the kind of intellectual honesty we should demand from all our public servants. But unfortunately, that's not what the Democrat Party offers today. They've become so consumed with destroying President Trump that they've abandoned any pretense of fairness or due process. As Americans who love our country and Constitution, we need to see these tactics for what they are. When they try to silence opposing viewpoints, when they engage in personal attacks instead of addressing arguments, when they make accusations without evidence, they're telling us everything we need to know about their agenda. The truth doesn't fear questioning. The truth doesn't need theatrical performances and carefully edited clips. The truth stands on its own merits, which is exactly why they're so afraid of it coming to light. So, patriots, as we head toward another crucial election, remember what you witnessed in this exchange. Remember how they treat distinguished scholars who don't toe their line. Remember their desperation to create false equivalencies to distract from their own corruption. Most importantly, remember that we have the power to put an end to these partisan charades. With your vote, your voice, and your support for America First candidates, we can restore integrity to our government institutions. If you found this breakdown valuable, please smash that like button, share this video with friends and family who need to see it, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. Let me know what other congressional exchanges you'd like me to break down next. And don't forget, for exclusive content and to support our fight against censorship, check out our Patriot membership program through the link in the description. Your support helps us continue bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't. Until next time, this is America First, standing strong for truth, justice, and the American way. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.